This is Angelic Podfic back with chapter 4 of Better Luck Next Time. This chapter is titled as Porcupine. This is actually my second time recording this because, like an absolute idiot, I lost the first recording. So, here's chapter 4. He gasps for breath and stumbles mid-step when he comes back to himself, his body aching for just a moment from phantom pain. He stops in place, staring ahead of himself blankly. He's out already in his costume with his hair dyed and pulled back. And he just died. The street is familiar to him, only a block from where he now knows a villain is waiting with 4 civilians and a quirk powerful enough to kill Izuku before he even got a hit in. The thing is, as much as he planned to die over and over again if he needed to save people, it's different when he's just gone and done it. He has to sit down, wrapping his arms around his knees and drawing in shaky breaths. He can't quite get his heart to settle because all he can think about is the sensation of the villain's quills sinking into his flesh, cutting through muscle and organs. He swallows thickly and tries to push down the bile that rises in the back of his throat. This is his power. This is his quirk. I have no right to be upset by it. Izuku digs his fingers into his shins, feeling the pressure and the dull pain through his jeans. He focuses on it, lets it ground him. He feels his breath slow, feels his heart rate begin to become steady, and only then he releases his grip on himself. He's still sitting on the ground, but he can think. He tilts his head back, looking up at the sky. The clouds drift lazily ahead, no urgency in them. He breathes in and out. A single raindrop falls on his cheek, making his nose wrinkle and his eyes shut reflexively. Izuku pulls himself to his feet and swallows his fear, walking back towards where he knows the villain is. Porcupine, he decides to call him, because it's not like he's going to ask the guy for his actual name. Izuku now knows he's not going to win if he approaches head-on, but he thinks he might be able to sneak up on the man if he comes from the other side of the truck, where the headlights won't illuminate him quite so much. Maybe if he can get the jump on the guy, if he can knock him out before he has the chance to shoot spines, he'll be able to take Porcupine down before Porcupine kills him. He knows what to listen for this time as he approaches the truck, sneaking around the backside of it so he can avoid being seen. He hears the thwack from Porcupine pinning the man to the wall, then another series of thumps. He grips his teeth and prays that none of the people Porcupine has cornered are hurt as he skirts the back of the truck, looking over the bed to see Porcupine's back. It occurs to him that maybe trying to sneak up on the villain whose entire back is covered in weapons might not be the best idea. Izuku takes another step, and he sees the 4 civilians from last time, except the man Porcupine had pinned to the wall last time had a trio of spines embedded into his throat, all clustered together in one terrible wound. Even from this distance, the amount of blood that's spilling out from his body, coating his clothing and the ground below him in dark, sticky red, tells Izuku that he's dead. Izuku feels a wave of nausea pass over him, remembering the way it feels when spines stuck into his own flesh, when he grew cold and shaky and died. He swallows, heavy in his throat, because now he has to die, because he isn't going to let someone else die in his place. Their lives are worth more than his, after all. He has so many of them. Izuku pulls out his knife and swallows. Just because he has to do this doesn't mean it isn't going to hurt. He debates trying to sneak closer first, but then Porcupine flexes and his spine shoots out, just barely grazing the cheek of the woman. She shrieks and steps back, pressing herself against the wall. She and her friends are all wide-eyed and pale, huddled together and shaking. Izuku can't wait if it means they'll die. He's throwing his knife at Porcupine before he can let himself think about it, rushing forward at the villain before he can even see if the knife hit or not. He hears a squelching noise as it embeds itself in Porcupine's back, just between 2 spines, and Porcupine shouts in surprise. his back bristling up and the spine scratching Izuku's arms. He doesn't stop, though, tugging his punching knife out from his belt and burying it deep in Porcupine's shoulder. Some part of him, as he tugs the knife out of the wound, wants Porcupine to run so he doesn't have to die again. But he pushes down the thought. The stab wound oozes red blood, and Izuku goes in for another stab just as Porcupine's hand wraps around his neck, pulling him away from the villain's side and moving him in front of Porcupine. Izuku struggles, kicking his feet out and feeling satisfaction when his heel knocks into Porcupine's stomach. But he doesn't seem to even faze the villain. Izuku watches rage flicker in his eyes before he slams Izuku into the ground, his shoulder and head knocking against the concrete, spearing in someone's blood. Izuku isn't sure if it's the dead man's, Porcupine's, or his own. He pushes himself up off the ground, his head spinning and the light from the truck headlights suddenly seeming brighter and multicolored. He reaches a hand up to his temple and feels a knot already forming, red, hot, and angry. Porcupine growls from above him and buries his foot in Izuku's stomach, sending Izuku back onto his side on the ground, gasping for breath. The air he breathes in tastes like rotting blood. Izuku shuts his eyes and curls into himself, praying for Porcupine to just kill him quickly this time, to stab him somewhere vital and get it over with. He feels another kick, this one to his shins where they're protecting his stomach. Then a burst of pain so strong he can't tell where it comes from. He's dead in seconds, but it still hurts like a wildfire raging in his veins. The next time he wakes up, he doesn't waste a moment. He starts running the second his eyes are open, the concrete pounding under his feet as the city whizzes by. He has to find a hero, a real hero, who can actually fucking save these people. He doesn't have enough power to do anything here. Not to save the civilians or defeat the villain. All he can do is die, and that doesn't solve anything if it won't save people. He knows he saw Burning earlier that night, but to his frustration he can't remember when he saw her or exactly where. As he turns down the wrong street over and over again, mistaking the warm lights of a nightclub or a bar and then a street light for her fire, he feels his chest aching from the exertion, feels the muscles in his legs burn from running for so long, and it feels like nothing in comparison to being stabbed. He finally catches her getting into a car of all things, and he sees the look of surprise on her face when he rounds the corner, sweaty and exhausted and out of breath. Burning, he gasps. You need to come. He takes in a breath, sees her step out of the car and back onto the asphalt, a confused look on her face. There's a villain, Porcupine Quirk, 4 civilians. He can't get any more out, but it seems to be enough because she nods and starts walking, and he takes off running even though his lungs tell him not to. He hears her footsteps match his pace, sees the flickering light of her quirk illuminating the way as he runs, taking the shortest path back to where he knows Porcupine is, but he knows from the sounds of 2 women screaming that he's too late. Even before he can see the truck, they round a corner and Burning passes him as he freezes in horror. The man is dead, just like last time, his blood coating the wall. One of the women, a college-age girl with long blonde hair, is crumpled in a heap between the wall and the truck, her hair streaked with dark blood, and her arm pinned to the ground. There's at least 7 spikes sticking out from her that Izuku can see, and he realizes before that she had tried to get away. He covers his mouth with a hand to stifle any noise he makes and turns, running from the scene. He doesn't need to see if Burning wins to know he has to start over. It's too late. He stumbles to the nearest building with an external fire escape, the metal stairs climbing up 7 stories. There are lights on some of the windows, but he doesn't want to wait to find a better opportunity. He doesn't have any idea how long until this becomes permanent, until the blood of that man and poor woman is on his hands. He climbs the stairs 2 at a time, his breath fogging his goggles where it leaks out of his mask. The view from the top is horrible. He can see the fire from where the Burning is fighting, can hear the shouts and screams. He looks down and swallows. At least this way, he's dead before he can feel any sort of pain. He shuts his eyes and dives off, head first. Izuku notes that he isn't out of breath anymore when he opens his eyes. He makes use of that fact, turning on his heels and sprinting. Burning isn't close enough, but that doesn't mean no one is. There has to be someone close enough, right? There has to be a way for him to save them. Izuku spots a familiar convenience store, the lights inside spilling out through the glass doors and windows, the open sign flashing blue and green. He runs up to the door and opens it, practically flinging himself inside. The heat of the air is too hot with all the adrenaline rushing through him, and the cashier, an older man with a bald head, looks terrified. Izuku realizes he probably looks a little like a villain. "Call the cops," he says, pointing to the phone. "2 blocks north of here. A villain is holding people hostage." The man behind the counter nods quickly and all but rips the phone off the wall, dialing the emergency number into it. Izuku paces along the front of the counter as the man talks quietly into the receiver, too quietly for Izuku to hear. He sees an aisle of candy, an aisle of chips, an aisle of magazines. One has basic supplies like bottles of windshield wiper fluid, duct tape, lighter fluid, and tool sets. Izuku sees the lighter fluid and the matches, thinks of burning last time. A fire quirk is so well suited too, he thinks. She won't have to worry about his spikes acting as armor. The cashier's voice snaps Izuku out of his thoughts, and he quickly turns to look at him. "They said they sent someone. They'll be here in 20 minutes. 20 minutes? Izuku asks, staring at the man in horror. He doesn't know how long exactly it took for burning to get there last time, but it was certainly less than 20 minutes. He remembers the way the blonde woman was crumpled like a broken toy, the way the man's blood spread across the ground like an oil slick on water. His mouth is suddenly very dry. "Thank you," he hears himself say distantly. He turns and walks out of the door, not really hearing when the cashier shouts after him. He walks, calmer than he feels, through the streets. He doesn't even hear sirens, not when he scales the fire escape from last time, not when he stands at the top. He stares distantly in the direction of where the villain is. He hears a scream, and he jumps. There's already a plan in Izuku's head when he wakes up, and he starts back towards the convenience store, drawing his knife and jogging through the streets. He can't be nice, can't play by the rules if he wants to save these people. He isn't a hero, and he doesn't have a quirk that can help him fight. All he has is his wits and information. He pushes open the door of the convenience store with this in mind, knowing that the older man will be scared of him from the beginning. He points the knife at the man and doesn't bother to shape his expression. He's wearing a mask after all. He tries not to sound terrified when he says, "Better call the cops." He turns and grabs a bottle of lighter fluid and a box of matches, stuffing the matches in a pouch on his belt and tucking the lighter fluid under one arm. "I'm robbing you." The man behind the counter takes a step back, spluttering, but Izuku doesn't want to stick around. He lowers the knife and turns to face the man again. "I'm about to set someone on fire, 2 blocks north of here," he says through gritted teeth. "Tell the police to hurry. Burning is on patrol, so they should send her as well. She's used to dealing with fire," he says, turning and yanking the door open before the man can reply. He can hear the bell above the door ding cheerfully as he sprints out. He folds the knife shut and shoves it in his pocket as he runs down the street. He won't need it for his plan. The trip to the truck and to the fight seems to take longer than normal, and Izuku pushes himself. His calf is burning. He needs to start working out more on his own. He should be able to run faster. He slows down to a quick walk when he sees the truck and sneaks around the back, moving his shoes carefully along the ground like he did the second time. He listens, doesn't hear any screams, just whimpers, and prays that means no one is dead yet. He came faster than the first time, even so they should be alive. As he rounds the truck, he sees Porcupine, backlit by his headlights and just as huge as ever. Izuku unscrews the cap of the jug of lighter fluid, A bright red container, probably about 1 pint in volume. It'll have to be enough. He steps as close as he dares, then darts forwards and dumps the bottle over Porcupine's hunched back. The air smells like kerosene, sharp and chemical, as the villain shouts in surprise and turns. Izuku barely dodges the open palm strike Porcupine sends at him, and he shoves his hand into his belt pocket, pulling out the box of matches. His hands shake as he rips open the box, backing away from Porcupine, who's stalking towards him with anger in his eyes. "Who the hell are you?" he growls, and Izuku strikes a match. The fire a bright golden beacon in the dark night. Izuku sees the firelight dance over Porcupine's face, showing more of the man's features than he's ever gotten to see before. He's ugly, middle-aged, and twisted up with such anger that it makes him look nothing but cruel. Izuku grits his teeth and steps towards him with the match. "I'm the one who's gonna stop you from killing those people," he says, swiping at Porcupine with the match, the flame flickering as it rushes through the air. Porcupine flinches back, the match is barely missing a damp spine, dripping with yellow-tinted fluid that glitters, reflecting the light of the match. "I'd like to see you try, brat," he says, stepping back and throwing a kick at Izuku. Izuku sees it coming and dodges, stepping back neatly. It's a lot easier to dodge when you're already injured, he thinks idly. He realizes that he's in range of the spikes like this, so he slides forward and out of the way just as Porcupine fires 3 dark spines from his shoulder. Izuku notices that, like past times, he doesn't throw a kick or punch at the same time, even though Izuku isn't close enough to do it. He wonders if Porcupine even can throw a hit while he's firing. He swipes the lit match at Porcupine and feels it connect with a spine on the back of the man's arms. Fear flares in the man's eyes for the first time, and Izuku feels the rush of satisfaction as the man fires the flaming quill in a panic, the fiery thing shooting out into the night. Izuku thinks he might hear sirens, but doesn't let it distract him. He steps in, grabbing the man's forearm while he's mid-shot and holding the match just above the bare skin of his chest, where he's glistening with lighter fluid that drips down his skin. Porcupine freezes like a statue, his pupils tiny specks, and his heart beating so hard Izuku can feel his pulse in his arm, even through the gloves Izuku wears. "Don't move," Izuku says, making eye contact with Porcupine even though he knows his goggles hide where he's looking. "Or I'll kill you." Porcupine just stares at him, his throat bobbing as he swallows. Izuku watches a bead of sweat runs down his neck. The flame of the match twitches, and Izuku sees the way Porcupine's gaze darts over to it. He feels strange, like he's someone else entirely, but he doesn't have it in him to care. 2 people would be dead now if he weren't doing this. 2 innocent people who don't get second chances like he does. He tightens his grip on Porcupine's wrist. He's sure now that he hears sirens. They're loud, and he hears quick footsteps too. He doesn't dare turn his head, doesn't dare look away in case Porcupine tries something, but he hears a voice that he's only heard screaming before. "He saved us!" a female voice shouted, and from the corner of his eyes he can see a boar of blonde hair pointing to him. "The guy with spikes said he was going to kill us, but he showed up out of nowhere." "Right," Verning's voice startles Izuku just a tiny bit, and he darts a quick glance to see her only about 10 feet from where Izuku holds Porcupine. He steps back, quickly moving to put distance between him and the villain. "He's got lighter fluid on him," Izuku says, cursing a stutter. "So if he tries anything..." He swallows, watching as the pro hero looks at him, then Porcupine. "Okay," she says, and Izuku sees the flash of red and blue police sirens, the shriek of them drowning out what Burning says next, but he supposes it doesn't really matter. He needs to run. He drops the match and steps on it, smothering it under his boot, then turns and sprints away, praying that they prioritize the villain over the vigilante. He knows what happens next if you do this thing and you're not licensed. They stop you at best, treat you like a villain at worst. He runs through the night, not for the first time, but it feels different in this situation. The air in his lungs feels like a celebration. and he resists the urge to whoop and cheer as he skips down the streets of Musutafu. Sure, he died, but more importantly, the civilians hadn't. As he enters his own neighborhood, the sounds of sirens distant and barely audible behind him, he lets himself slow down to a walk. He feels the night breeze brushing against his sweaty skin, and he lets himself smile. That, he thinks, is why I want to be a hero. He isn't even sore the next morning when he opens his eyes sleepily, light slipping through a gap in his curtains and falling on his face. It's a strange feeling to wake up and have it be in the warmth of his own bed instead of on the street. He fumbles a hand on his side table until he finds his phone, which he tugs free of the charging cable and holds in front of his face. Like usual, he opens his Hero News app. He doesn't have any friends to text, so he's been this in the Quirk Analyst and Pro Hero fan forums. The app is simple in theme, and is usually dominated by articles of All Might and the rest of the top 10. So he's a little surprised to see that the top few articles all seem to be about someone he's never even heard of. The first article, Boy in Red Saves 4, doesn't ring any bells. Neither does the second. New hero or new villain? Masked fighter aids in capture. But it all suddenly makes horrible sense when he reads the third title. Vigilante threatens murder to attract heroes, results in a successful rescue of 4. Izuku clicks on one of them and reads through it with a sense of sickness building in his stomach. The thing is, he never thought he'd get recognized as a vigilante. He'd always just assumed that he'd be a famous hero and his nighttime identity would be something only underground heroes and cops knew about. But this? He doesn't actually remember to breathe for a second as he reads through the descriptions of himself. There's no pictures of him, just Burning and Porcupine, whose actual name apparently is known as Impaler, fitting, but it's so unnerving to read article after article after the new suspected college student that robbed a store to save lives. The media seems unsure about his status. If he's a villain getting vengeance, or a new vigilante, or even a new pro that avoided the limelight, but reading the specs from both eases his nerves and makes him feel sick. They think he's older than he is for one, but they can tell he isn't fully grown. They think that he either has an analyst quirk or one that would make him invulnerable to the fire that threatened Porcupine/Impaler with. After all, why would he risk that? He'd surely have burned up too if he lit a villain up at such close range. The worst part, he thinks, is that so many of them think he's a villain. They cite the way that he threatened the shopkeeper with a knife, the way he stole, and the way he would have killed the villain, not just captured him. They speculate that Izuku wanted to steal the other villain's thunder, that he wanted to make a name for himself, that if he wanted to help, he would have been better off waiting for the pros to arrive. This makes him feel nauseous with frustration, his eyes sparkling with angry tears because they don't get it. He didn't make an educated guess and get it right on his first try. He didn't take the risky route for fun. He tried everything else. Tried getting a hero, and tried calling the cops, and tried handling it with knives and not stolen flames. He knows that he saved 4 people, and that the majority of the articles agrees, calling him a vigilante and not a villain, but it still makes his heart ache to see those few that insist on him being evil, being dangerous. It makes him want to curl up in a corner and die. Makes him want to throw himself off a building so his skull gets crushed into pieces on the sidewalk below. He settles for scratching at his arm as he reads, using the raw sensation of nails on skin to ground himself as he reads. He knows he should set his phone down or do something else, but it's a sick fascination that keeps him reading. He thinks that next time he'll do better. He'll save people and do it in a way that doesn't leave people wondering. They'll know, without a shred of doubt, that he's a force for good. Thank you so much for listening to Chapter 4 of Better Luck Next Time. If you enjoy this, come over to AO3 and be sure to give Nautical Warriors some kudos. They definitely deserve it. Thank you so much for listening this. I hope you enjoyed it. and leave some comments and likes down if you did. Have a nice day.